Welcome
to the Infinite Creative Podcast. Today we got a juicy one. We're talking all about the death of the internet, AI, automation, agencies, everything becomes bots. Then we're also talking about should you even continue playing in this field, and a lot of what is the other topic, Sean?
And then we're just kind of updating on, some things in our own creative lives and talking about kind of that plate emptying and how that's not always a bad thing, how sometimes, having the plate empty, the client's kind of slowing down can actually be a gift. So so you have to kind of take advantage of those moments. So, so everybody listen up. It's going to be a good episode.
Yeah, so I think let's jump right into it. So I saw yesterday a video about the death of the internet, and I was like, what? Why would be the internet dying? Everybody's on their phone, everybody's doing everything. And the week before, I was kind of dabbling with a new thing, and it's called AAA, AAA agencies. It's basically AI automation agencies. It's basically a chatbot that you build once, and then you can connect it to your Instagram, to your website, basically to everything where you interact with a customer. And this ties into the death of the internet in a weird way, because apparently 67% of the internet is bots. And that is kind of frightening if you think about it. And that's right now. And those AAA agencies are coming out right now, building bots. And right now I had already 2 clients where I was chatting with them. And I was chatting with AI bots. And I'm like, what? And now I don't even want to chat with them. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, well, it's obviously gross, right? When you think it's a human and then it's not, it's this robotic thing. It really makes it seem like you're not really ever going to get what you want out of the conversation, right? Because nobody's ever going to program something into these bots that's going to give the customers what they want over the business.
Yeah.
So I hate that. What's funny is we can't really be surprised though if you think about it. How many calls do you get a day that's a robot? How many things come in the mail that was a robot that sent that? So it doesn't really surprise me, right? All media already right now has as much robots touching it as we possibly can have it touch. What was the last handwritten note you got? And if you got one, you probably only got 1 this year or 2 this year versus a million robotic postcards you got sent. So it doesn't surprise me at all. What makes me really worried about it that I see everywhere, you see it from your airlines, you see it at the grocery store, you see it everywhere where everyone's moving service to robots, right? Because why do I want to have a staff that gets yelled at? Why do I want to have a staff that people are trying to take advantage of? When I just should give a robot, there's only these 2 answers, and we're never going to allow them to not have anything other than these 2 answers. And then that robot can use this kind of conversational way of bringing you to the answer they want. And it's gross, right? Because once you find out it's a bot, you're like, there's no way that there's empathy happening here. You just have your outputs, and you're just trying to get to an output.
Yeah, basically it's becoming a very objectified... We basically train humans to objectify service givers in a way, if that makes sense, So I think maybe human behavior will shift into even a more gross form of let's just yell at the bot, and maybe it's not the bot on the other end, but you don't know, but you don't care because it's just whatever, and you're just there's no repercussions, and you don't have to think about how the other person feels because there's a good chance it's not even a person.
Yeah. Well, and what I get worried about is that we get so used to communicating with bots, and this is probably already happening, that we communicate with each other like we do bots, right? So even the internet has made us have way less patience for each other even, right? So if I had to give you an answer, right, and I was on this end trying to figure it out, your patience, I feel would be much less than it would have been 20 years ago, where you would have been yeah, it's okay, figure it out. Where now you're no, I want that answer now. I can Google it right now. Why would I even wait for Sean to come up with the answer?
Yeah, and everything is long-winded, just like a good old podcast. Yeah, so... but in the end, I feel that is a very interesting concept, and it is kind of like a firewall if you think about it. Every business builds their own firewall that is okay, I don't want to interact with humans, but I want humans to buy from me. So just I'm putting a bot in between, and the bot will reach out to other businesses and people, but don't you dare contact me. I just want to put you through the funnel, and that's it.
Now, what's really weird about this is when technology, when we hand something over to technology and we say, I don't want to handle this anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, we kind of lose the ability to do it ourselves, right? So like with the washing machine breaks, it's not like you guys have like an old school metal board that you would actually go out to the creek and know how to wash your clothes without it. You just don't know what to do. You go to a laundromat or something, but I think it's the same thing here where, like, yeah, if everything's bots, if we're all running our agencies and companies off of bots, then we kind of lose the ability to run our companies if we ever lose the bots, I feel like. If you've only used a bot your entire company, then let's say that bot goes away, how are you going to be able to run your company then?
Yeah, it's also an interesting concept because, like, obviously you will get into two problems. First off, it's like, do you take the stance of like, I'll do everything myself and cold outreach yourself? You text 20, 30 people, and then you obviously have to interact unique with each person. And still, the difference would be not that great. The only thing you have is the trust that you can say, no, I'm doing it 100% old school. When you interact with me, I'm human. But obviously, you miss out on the volume where other people are doing like, you can text with so many thousands of accounts at the same time where you can do one account, or maybe two accounts,
Yeah, well, and I think that gets back to the old argument of quantity versus quality, right? Of, maybe... So, yeah, if you're an agency, then, running it all yourself, you can only have so many customers, right? I think I've talked about having, like, the seat at the table, and there can only be 6 or 7 seats, and that's really the truth. If you're running the business, there's no way you can service more than 6 or 7 people at the exact same time. There's just no way. But those interactions are a lot more strong, I feel like, where, like, if you're getting 1 million interactions, but with a bot, then it's all very shallow. It's not like that bot is going to say a joke that's a little off key. It's not going to talk about something, and maybe it will. These maybe will get better and better. Where that I think that's where it gets scary, right? Is when the bot starts to act like us, like, oh, hey Fitz, hey, so how is your niece doing? You talked about a year ago, and hey, how's that foot going? And and it gets better at that stuff. I think that gets creepy. Yeah,
so that is we're already at that point. So I saw. Also, while doing my research, there's like a funny thing where it's like 5 people don't see each other and they have to distinguish who's the bot and they have to vote each other out. So on the last turn, the bot got voted out, but there was 7 people getting voted out. So it's basically already at the point. So you basically everybody's getting asked a question. Everybody has to vote on that question. Was that a bot or was it a human? So it's like, it's already indistinguishable. What is like scary and, where you said volume versus quantity, as a human being, we are not capable of providing quality customer service because we will have a bad day. We will interact with our customers in a bad way because we snap, we have emotions, The bot is just like, oh yeah, no, I'm always at my high, I'm always like pretending to be, and it's hard to distinguish because like you cannot read mannerisms and emotions through text.
Well, yeah, and I think it really comes through in the empathy. That's when you'd be able to tell the bot from the human is, I think we've had times where we've messed something up and a store owner has been like, you know what, man, I got you. Don't even worry about it. And that's something that I think a bot would never do. I don't think a bot would ever be like, oh, we're going to take a loss on this because I have empathy. That's not in the bot's world. So I feel like that would be the differentiator is a real person at least will hear you and be like, you know what, usually we wouldn't take this as a return, but the story you just told me is so compelling. We'll go ahead, we'll take it back. We'll try to make it right.
It is an interesting thing. But the other big problem that I wanted to mention is like the existential thing, because with AI there's so many problems arising, and now you could be like, okay, I don't want to participate in this game because like I don't want to interact with bots. I don't want to be sold to by bots. If my social media account is to a certain percentage bots anyways, I cannot even trust them, and I cannot take pride in that because it's not real, and that is a very unique problem. What's your thought on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it comes back to like, when you work with somebody, you actually feel like you're helping them. When I hire Fitze to do a video for me, I actually feel like I'm putting bread on your table. When Fitze bought 5,000 is telling me something, I don't feel that good now that I'm giving Fitze bought 5,000 money to do something. I don't actually feel like, because I don't know who's actually behind that. And I guess it just gets to my bigger point of we're losing trust like so fast, and I think that's the hardest thing. I I even see stuff that people write, and I'm like, I don't think you wrote that. You don't like, and I'm not gonna say who or point names, but like, I'm like, you don't seem like you're intelligent enough to actually wrote that paragraph that you actually sent me. Like, you're actually kind of dumb, and you just sent me like an Oxford level paragraph. What?
Yeah.
And so like, there's a lot of that going on. A lot of visual stuff now that I'm seeing where there's these young people. And I say young people, there's probably old people too, but I've caught a few young people that are really young. I'm talking 14, 15 that are putting out design work that is expert level, and that I'm also suspicious of, because I don't see the process. I don't see sketches and mess ups. I don't see any revisions or anything like that. I don't see any work that came before that was maybe worse. It's just out of nowhere, amazing work. I just started designing one day and it was just AAA work. And so I'm starting to lose that trust as I see stuff. And that's the saddest part, is I feel like, and with the bots becoming everything, you're going to just lose more trust. I feel like you're just not going to believe even the conversations you're having are real. And that's sad.
Yeah, it is really sad. On that part, I was like, okay, do you even want to play that game? And I want to share some hope with the answers that I found. And obviously, it's not all correct and all giving or whatever, but it's like playing a game, and the game is ending, and on the way to the game ending, it becomes more and more difficult and sucks more and more and more, but you still want to play to have some fun while you're doing it. You cannot just like, okay, I stop everything and just end the game. Because we need to live.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, so I think that's the hard thing that a lot of us as humans are just dealing with right now. We can't put the technology back in the box. We can't say, hey, everybody, let's stop. Let's not do this. It's going to happen now. And it's weird. I think what's happening to me is there's this, I don't know, I have this weird, like, why are we doing any of this anymore? I don't know. Sometimes it'll just come up, like, what's the point? Like, we're just selling stuff to each other. Like, that seems to be the whole point of humanity now, is just to sell each other more crap anymore. And I think that's where bots really, I don't know why it's bots that have made me think of this. It's existed forever, but bots are just kind of, it's starting to make more obvious that, like, that we're just going to hire robots to spin up more crap for us to sell, and then we're going to even have the bots sell the crap that other bots are selling, and it just gets this weird, like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we actually doing? We're just playing with deck chairs right now. We're not doing anything.
Yeah, in the end, it is kind of sad, but I'm also like, I was on a Facebook group, and it kind of made click. So there's like real estate agents and stuff like that, and I'm in a bunch of groups, just to make connections and see what is leading to paid gigs, not paid gigs, yada, yada, yada. But in the end, it's like there's communities. And if you're not part of the community in person, like a real meetup, they will not hire you. And they will not even hire you if you're better than that person and you provide a better deal, because they're already established connections. So I feel like this type of connection, this establishment, becomes way, way stronger. And the people who are like, oh, I just implemented a chatbot selling to like a bunch of real estate agents, it's not working as well as like, okay, we have a guy there that we know personally, because you have that real connection. So this will be even like more powerful than it ever has been.
Yeah, 100%. I like what you said there. I mean, it's kind of making all of your clients feel like they're part of a boutique experience, right? That they have a guy that is like their management kind of service for this. And I think you're right. I think it comes down to checking in with them, something I need to even do better, even like cold calling the clients you've already had and just checking in, saying like, hey, how are you doing? Sending out Christmas cards, things like that. Like, I think stuff like that is going to be super needed. And I think you're right. I think things like getting a following is a big deal. Being good on your social media is good for that reason. Because I think it comes down to safety, and I think at least right now, even bots aren't really safe, right? Like I could have a bot design my logo, and I could feel like I did it quickly and easily, and it's a great looking logo, I may think, but maybe it's not. And I've just trusted the bot to answer the problem. And if you're not an expert level brand identity designer, how do you know a bad logo from a good logo? So I think that's the problem with AI too, is it assumes that you're a good judge of stuff. That like AI spits something out and you're like, yep, good enough. That seems like a legal document. And it's like,
it's the details.
Yeah, it's the details, exactly. And can you talk about it, right? Like, if I have AI spit out a whole thing, and then you're like, interviewing me on your podcast, I can't talk about it if I just had the AI do it. How can I talk about my inspiration and things? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I pressed the button and the book was written. That's how it feels, to write a book. So yeah, it's your experiences. Your experiences are more valuable than anything now.
Yeah, I feel like also like that brings up a good point, because like with those AAA agencies, it's like, okay, you interact with a bot, you can have a real conversation, and they show empathy, like fake empathy, but you think they do, but it's just like, this is a response that you would, accept or predict. That's basically what you get. You get the prediction that you think a human would do, and the bot will do. So that means like, for example, your example with the customer service, like, we will do a return, and they do the whole like what a manager would say, because it's just predicting what real human would say, and it's just predictions if it fits the narrative. The problem is, like, if you're the real owner, talk now to the real customer in person, because for whatever reason you do not have a memory of that thing. The bot has, you don't. So you basically distance yourself off like the real experience. Obviously, you could read up on the whole conversation, but who does that?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it too, is there is some AI interfacing with people too, where like maybe there's on the back end, the AI is working, and then you're the one that's just talking. So the AI is telling you what to say, and you're telling the person, and then it is coming from you. But yeah, I think you're right, where it's like, who is going to do that? I think you have a good point there. Like, who's going to want to do that work? And I guess that's what I'm getting to, too, of like, once things get easy, who wants to go back to the hard way? Like, nobody does. Like, so that's the thing, I guess, that scares me, is all these things get easier. Who's going to be the one that actually wants to go back and do the old thing then? Yeah. And, even so I'll say, like, the thing that I'm the most guilty of using AI now, all the time, is code, is code. And I'm not using it in a crutch way quite yet, where I'm, instead of me trying to solve the problem, I just go straight to AI. But I've definitely felt that weird, like, if I get stuck now, like, even for a second, if I can't figure it out, I don't grind it out at all. Like, I immediately go to AI, and then I'll grind it. Like, there's always, like, this, like, okay, before I get into it, put it into AI. And that's okay. Like, I think when it gets that level, that's okay. But I think it gets dangerous when you start to skip that first step of, like, I'm even going to try it. You're like, no, why would I even try it? I'll just put it straight into AI. And then I think that's when you start to lose your skills. It's like being domesticated, right? It's like being an outdoor cat versus an indoor cat. And when you do AI, you become that indoor cat, that big fat indoor cat.
Well, that goes into the next thing that I had in my head. It's like kind of weird, back in the day, you are like, you had the knowledge, then you Googled the knowledge, and you had to do research, trial and error, and now you're not even thinking, you're just executing. You just become a tool that's just like, okay, somebody gives you like a problem, and your option is like solve that problem as quickly as possible. You do not need to understand what the problem is about. You're just to solve that one problem. And we are just like becoming really dumbed down, because everybody can do everything, because the knowledge is out there, and it's not like we have to learn it, we just have to execute it and move on to the next thing. What is like really moving away from like you identify as the problem solver for a niche, you're just becoming like a little processor in a way.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are kind of like that, where they're processors, where a lot of people are trying to do a lot. I know people that are learning code, and they keep being like, well, do I need to know design? I feel like I should just know design too. And I know designers that are like, maybe I should know how to code, and I know, and so it's like funny how everyone does feel like they need to know stuff. Everyone's telling me about SEO. Everybody's telling me about marketing. Everybody's telling me about, so it's funny how we all try to wear all these hats, right? We all try to wear all of these hats, and what is funny is that we'll never be able to wear all the hats as much as AI can. So I think so maybe it's just more of an example of like, we need to master a thing or two, maybe. Like, it just gets back to like, stop being the SEO expert, stop being the email marketing expert, stop trying to do all these things that aren't your career. Those should be the AI. You need to be good at this one thing. And maybe and I think there is something to that. How much hours have I spent becoming Google certified? How many hours have I spent doing all these things, HubSpot certified, HubSpot University, all these other things? for what? I should get back to design. I mean, I keep having these conversations even with code and other developers of like, they're like really like complimentary, like, you know a lot, Sean, of code, like you're actually really knowledgeable, like you can set up a server, you can do all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but how much time have I not spent towards like the design of stuff? How much have I had to take away from that to go this far away from the original thing? So I feel like maybe the future is like focus on 1 to 2 things, and then maybe everything else does become AI or someone else in your network, right? And I think that's a big thing too, is we all have to get over cheap, we all have to get over it. Even us with no money have to get over that, where we need to pay for talent. We need to help the tribe. We need to get people in our loop. Because I know as we're poor, of course we're not going to feel like we can hire a staff. Of course we're going to be like, I got to do an AI. I'm a poor dude. But then we buy a car for ourselves once we get money. Then we buy another house for ourselves when we get money. We just like find ways to spend this money, and then we'll never hire anyone. So it's like, so I feel like that too. I'm trying to tell that to myself too, of like, hire people. I know that Fitz could cost more than if I just got like an AI stock video, sure, but like, there's going to be better work that comes from that, and it's a better vibe, a better feeling, better energy when you're helping someone. You're giving Fitz money for the video, not AI.
Yeah, I feel like with this is like a lot of negativity and whatever, but in the end, it's just like the human interaction just became more valuable. Back in the day, it was really good. Now the internet is basically collapsing on itself because of all the bots and all that stuff. And in the meantime, we have to make as much money as we can with it before it's like becoming like everything is a bot, everything is already being sold. But we gotta keep playing the game till it collapses, and then in the meantime we have to build those connections, them real connections where it's like, okay, after everything is said and done, it's like I know like 20, 30, 50, 100 people where like I know I can go there and they will help me and I will help them.
Yeah, and I think that's the important part. If you've helped someone in the past, they're definitely more likely to help you in the future. So if you go around not helping anybody, then when the time comes for you to be helped, you may get nothing. You may get no help. I think it's great. I forgot, what was your second topic you wanted to talk about today?
What we did wrong, basically giving free work away.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, go and explain to our audience what's your last 2 months been like?
Oh, man. I was doing the thing, where you're sometimes, I had a really busy month scheduled. A lot of things went the other way, basically, so I'm just like, okay, it's not as good of a month as I thought it would be. And there's certain projects that I take on because like they could be beneficial for me. I tried to create a win-win deal where it's like, okay, free workout for free exercise, like free reels for like personal training, for example. I did a deal like that, and then I did like, oh, let's add on a brand deal with another company. Let's add another brand deal on. Now we had free things, and obviously that will clog your pipeline up. And I'm just like, oh, now there's a model that, and we're just like combining a lot of free work to a degree that shouldn't be there. There's like, you have only 1, maybe 2 spots, but not 3, 4, 5, 6 spots, Even though you receive something, but if it's not money, it can be really devastating.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, like I talked about those 6 or 7 chairs around the table, and it sounds like you gave every single one of those chairs away for free. Just bring a gift. It's a potluck tonight. Bring one gift, and that's all you have to do. And yeah,
we had
very
a good
dangerous.
Potluck. Yeah.
At least you got like free workouts and all these things. I think you're going to get free dental work or something. I don't know. You're doing all these freebie things, and
I mean, they have value. It's not like that they are worthless, but the rent.
The rent. Yeah, I know. It's true though. It's like, you have this baseline that you have to hit every month, right? And that's where I have to get to. Is like there's this bare minimum amount of money you got to pull in, bro. And if you ain't pulling in, then we only got 1 or 2 months of that, and we're out. The game's over. Like it's like the hearts in Zelda, right? Like so if every month we don't get that money, boop, 1 heart's gone. Boop, 1 heart's gone. Oh God, better get them filled back up. Like or and so I think, I mean, it's good to do in a way. Like I get why you do it, right? Because in a good trade, you both feel like you got a good deal. Yeah. You both have created this cool connection that almost supersedes client, and almost like it kind of plays with the friend client thing a little bit. I feel like when you do that too. And so you're making friends, you're getting this good vibes, but yeah, you're right. You have to get money. Like I actually have a hard rule. So I actually had this meeting this last week, and it was with this nonprofit. I'll maybe tell you more if they kind of say yes and we go forward in the process. But they were kind of this nonprofit that runs this big race, and which is funny because if you look at the tickets, they're making money off this race. But
Obviously.
They came in. They were like, we've been getting this free every year, so can you, what can you do for us? And I was just like, I don't do free anymore. And they were kind of taken aback for a second, but I was like, no, I have a hard rule, no free work anymore. And it's nothing against anyone. There's no personal thing, but you don't want free from me. Like you don't, because I've told them if it's free, you're at the bottom of the pile. And that means it may be a few days till I even answer an email from you. And do you want that? And probably not. Like so nope, no free work. We have to charge. I'll give you a good discount. I'll give you good prices. But like I think for me, I used to give a lot of free work and stuff and I started to realize it took me a while. It took me a couple of years of being in the game doing this, where I started to realize you're doing this because you want people to appreciate you. You have this weird desire to have people love you and like you and appreciate you, and you have this hero complex. You want to be the hero, and that's what's doing this, Sean. And you got to shut that shit down. Like
don't be a good person.
You want to go be a good person? Go work at the soup kitchen once a week. Don't give away all your work for free, right? So it's not like if I owned an art gallery, I just want to be a good guy. So come on in, grab a piece off the wall, and get right out because I'm trying to be a good person today. I was like, no, we gotta. So I've had to detach that. You being a good person and giving people free stuff is two separate things. You can be a good person and charge them out the nose. That's the best thing, is have them pay you a ton of money, but you're still a good person.
Yeah, so with that is also like another thing. Like if you try to help other people and you're not helping yourself, in the end you will be unable to help people, because if you don't have money, you don't have power or anything, you cannot help anybody. There's a lot of good people who are out there trying to help other people, but if you're not a little bit narcissistic in a way, it's like it is the worst. Like the most depressed people are the ones that are helping other people the most, and then they cannot help themselves. What is like an oxymoron, It's like, what was the guy, Robbie Williams? He was like one of the nicest guys and whatever, and you would never assume that, always giving, and then yeah. Well, I think it's true. Well, because there's a lot to unpack in this. So in terms of the giving, there's a point where, like, you're giving and it's still benefiting you, right? Yeah. There's still a point where you're like, I'm willing to give this because I see the benefit and how it's helping me. And then there's a point where you give them something and then you realize, oh crap, I should not have said I was going to give them this. And now you're actually starting to get the opposite. You're actually getting angry at them. You're starting to be like, I can't believe they want another revision. Don't they get that I'm doing this for free? I can't believe that they disagreed with my idea. I'm doing it for free, and now they're arguing with me that they want this. And so before you know it, you start to build animosity. It actually starts to generate some negativity somehow. Yeah. When really I think it's about, how can I be nice? How can I give them something without giving them everything? But we're like, how can I give you something without feeling like I gave you too much? Like, it'd be like you being like, hey man, I need some money. And me being like, okay, man, here's a couple $100 versus, here, man, here's my card. Go ahead, just empty it out. Yeah. Like, business is like a fun excursion where you learn a lot of little lessons, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't get a degree in it, so we didn't, that's the thing I always have to remind myself. You didn't do a 4-year business degree, so yeah, you don't know anything, Sean. This is like a guy that didn't do a 4-year design degree. I'm going to be like, yeah, you don't know? You don't get it?
Yeah, it is kind of funny. Like, one of my clients, though, so there's always an upside, when you interact with people and you learn from people and you're making a deal. You get something in return, and you never know what it is, especially on a weird deal where it's like no money is involved. It becomes like, okay, you're like a beta client, for example. I want to learn from you, and I want to get whatever I ask. I want an answer, kind of, in a way. That's what I kind of did, because I wanted to get into a different market. And it was kind of eye-opening how the other side is like being and what they do. And it's like, oh, so you're using AI. Oh, so you're doing this. So this is how you value things, and this is how you learn. And apparently a business coach, to go back to what you said, is apparently very good to have. It's obviously expensive, but they will basically shorten your progress line. And I'm like, oh, I wish I had done that when I had money. Just hire a business
Yeah.
coach, and I would have been 10 times better.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you if you followed their advice, you would be. And who knows? I also think there's probably business coaches that probably do bad out there. They'll give you bad advice, just like anyone else would. But you're right. I think having that objective opinion is a big deal, right? I know that we do that a lot for each other, right? So for you and me, like when I'm like, too much in my head, that's when you're like, you need to stop being in your head and you just need to do it. This is how you get to success. And then for you, it's me being like, you're creating stress for yourself right now, and you don't even realize it. And you're like, no, it's going to be fine. And I'm the one that's like, no. In 2 weeks,
remember
you're
that
going to be
conversation. Sitting on the kitchen table talking about like, oh yeah, make sure you pay your rent and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, fine. And then everything got canceled. And I'm just like,
2 weeks later. Exactly. But it's good. And so like a business coach is good like that too, because then it would be this other objective opinion that's like, no, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And then when you're like, no, I don't think that, they'd be like, yeah, but have you built a successful business? And then you're like, okay, good point. And then then you do their advice. But there's something to that though. I don't lose sight of the giving stuff away for free 100%. Like, so like, that's why like even in my answers, I'm not saying don't ever do that. Like, it's not bad to do, and it's not bad to give discounts. It's not bad. Like, even when I send people an estimate, so like I just told you, I sent this race an estimate, and you could tell that it was like, he wasn't against the price, but you could tell he wasn't like overjoyed. You know that when you send a client a price, they're like, okay, cool. And you're like, dang it, I should have charged more. I didn't get that email. I didn't get that like, yeah, we're good over here. I got the, I'm going to have to put this internally. I'll have to get back to you on this. And what was funny is even in that, I was like, cool. And, feel free to tell me if the price isn't good. We can still talk it over. So I always kind of try to leave the door at least a little open. I always am like, if you don't like the price, we can still talk it through, because then that's when I can kind of start to play some things, right? I'm like, okay, well, you have a race, right? Okay, well, if you put my logo somewhere, what's that worth? Okay, and am I going to shave off a little money for that? And well, and And okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm just trying to get more clients in this outdoor space. Can you hook me up with people in the outdoor space? Can you So it becomes this thing where it's like, okay, fine, I'll trade those things, but like it will never be all or nothing, right? It wouldn't be like he could be like, yeah, I'll give you a really great connection. I'm like, cool, now it's free. I'm like, okay, that shaved about $200, $300 off. Give me another connection, maybe I'll shave another. So it's like, you almost have to be more competitive in that world too, of like, okay, you're giving something free. Well, it's like Pawn Stars a little bit, where you got to like way undershoot and be like, I was thinking more like $5. That's where I'm at,
Is it not a monthly subscription to the Sean where I'm just like paying $5 for a website?
Yep. Exactly.
You just need 1,000 of those.
Yeah. Easy.
Jeez.
I'll just get bots to do it, apparently.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, with that being said, like, what are your moves for the next foreseeable future? You got a strategy lined up to growth, get more clients?
I'm in a very odd spot. I think it's very interesting, and I think it's something I definitely don't mind sharing with the public, because it's one of those weird things, because we always talk about like when you want to get clients and when you don't have enough clients, and I'm in this weird spot where the last couple months on this podcast I've been talking about how I want to clear the plate. I'm trying to clear the plate. I just want to clear the plate. Well, now the plate's kind of cleared, and it's both terrifying and amazing at the same time. Thankfully, I have a couple months of cushion saved up. I say that hesitantly, maybe more a month and a half cushion, but so it's not too terrifying, but it's been really interesting to be like, wake up every morning, check the email, and the email's kind of empty. Like, the clients aren't really reaching out. July is actually a slow month. A lot of people don't really realize this in business, but July is when everyone takes their vacations, so things actually slow down a lot in June and July.
Yeah.
And then they start to pick up again back in August usually. So July is usually just a slow month for everybody.
Especially for weddings too, like for the videography business side, that's basically where it's like, oh, people are complaining about the economy by itself, what is like a big problem as well. But I feel like I kind of need to go harder now, like talking about like future plans. For example, I was doing reels for a client. I was like learning, doing courses and stuff like that, and they are like making and analyzing like their own profiles, like the one guy who manages a ton of people basically is like, oh yeah, this is what I do for my clients, and then people asking him questions, and then he checked out a profile. I'm like, oh, this guy posted like 30 videos, and he analyzed it. And I'm like, oh, he did 30 videos of that style and I only did 2. And I'm like, I was doing shit for other people while doing the free work and getting trades in, basically like we're trading stuff. So they got the benefit, and if I'm selling the benefit, I should use the benefit for myself, instead of like, it's like you making a good banger website that makes money, do it for yourself, or at least like get the ball rolling. So instead of just doing it for other people, same with the videos for myself,
Yeah, I love that. I think there is something to that, the side gig, right? Because what's funny is when you go freelance, usually the freelance starts as a side gig and then becomes the full-time gig, and then we kind of forget that there needs to be like a new side gig. And so, for me, I know my painting's kind of my side gig. I kind of view that in my head as my weird ticket out of this career, because if AI does truly take over and nobody ever wants to pay for a web designer in 10 years, and that all just starts to happen, then I have painting. I have the hand-painted stuff to go for 100%. But yeah, having the side gig stuff and turning that lens on yourself is super important, right? But it's scary, and it sucks because it doesn't make any money. You don't pay yourself very well. So it's like that's something I run into with my own website, is every time I think, maybe I need to redesign my website, I'm like, yeah, but you need paid work right now, and that's not really, and it's good enough. The website's good enough. Now, could it be better? Hell yeah, it could be better. All my stuff could be a ton better. But it's social media too. I know that's the thing that you always kind of are jumping on me about, because I'm definitely not consistent on it. And that's just because... And when I say I don't have enough time, I know it's easy to make the argument of like, well, just go to your camera roll. How long does it really take to post something? It doesn't, but it's the interruptions, the cognitive interruptions to do it that I think become too much to do. But it's super important to turn that lens in on yourself. You got to market yourself too, and so I think it's good though. It's good to do that. That even if your business is failing, I would say you still have to do it. It's funny because it's backwards thinking. You're like, oh crap, I need clients. I can't work on myself. But that's probably when you need to work on yourself the most.
Yeah, there's several parts to a business, like sales and marketing. That is what I view as like making your own videos. That is like, it's a key component nowadays, and that's just one part of the business, sales and marketing. Then there's actually doing the work, and then there's the research and development, like learning new skills. There's so many buckets, but sometimes we just spend all the time in doing work. And that is not, that's not how you run a business. There needs to be some time in sales and marketing, and there are certain things you can do, and also you have to spend some time in research and development.
Yeah. Well, and the research development part's really key, too, of a lot of us, once we get really far in this career, we have a hard time coming up with time to learn new tools and get even better at stuff. So, it's tough to really to schedule all these things, especially yet again, it sounds like you are in this place where you don't have a lot of money right now to play with. It's not like you have months and months of cushion.
Small monies.
So it's like, it's hard. It's hard to have that kind of, so it's almost like, you almost have to think of it as like a problem solver, right? It's like you almost have to like take yourself out of it and be like, okay, so let's pretend that I'm the client that I just got, and I'm telling myself all of this stuff. I don't have enough clients right now. I don't have enough money. I barely have enough money to pay you to do this one thing. Then be very tactical. What's 5 hours going to do for you? How do we use that 5 hours on yourself this week the best? Is it making videos for yourself? Is it the website? Is it going through all of your text content? Is it just flooding the world with applications and cold calls?
Bots. Going back to that. Yeah, what is like the scary part? But yeah.
But it's a lot of those things. So for you, I know it's just kind of, it's scary because you've got to this place where you've been doing a lot of work. I think that's where I get the most frustrated too, is when I've been busy as hell, working 10, 12, 14-hour days, but then the money isn't matching up. That's when I get real mad almost at myself, where I'm like, no, if you're gonna work 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week, you're pulling in a paycheck. Like, this is ridiculous. If you're working that much and you're not pulling in a paycheck, this is ridiculous, and you're actually abusing yourself. I actually get to a point where I'm like, you need to realize, Sean, that you're abusing yourself. This is abuse. Yeah. And so, so to where I'm at now, where I've like I've emptied the plate, right? Like, and I kind of, part of me is like, I really need to fill that plate. But another part of me is like, But look at all the crap that you haven't been able to get it done around that. Like, look at the office that is just literally in shambles. You're also talking about how you're going to go to Florida and move to Florida, and how much planning have we actually done for that part, and things like that. And where's the painting business, and there's so much stuff that I just haven't gotten done on that side. That's like, so it's like I'm starting to just take those things, and then also, you know, my girlfriend's going to be coming here tomorrow, and we're going to be disappearing all next week into the mountains. And so, and that's a big thing too that I'm starting to do, is being like, put the computer down. And you know what? If I come back to it after a week,
eaten by a bear.
They can't get me They can't get me for student loans in a bear stomach, so it's fine. But you know, for me, it's like putting it down and stepping away is such a big deal. Now, yet again, I know people listening, and I've been in parts of my life where I haven't even been able to take a week off, or it's all going to fall apart. But even if that's the case, if you couldn't take 1 week off and close the computer and not have your whole business fall apart, then something needs to change right now. Then there's a problem already, even if you don't see it. If you don't think you can step away for 1 week and pick it up and it wouldn't all be in shambles, then there's a problem and you need to fix it. Yeah. It may be too much work. It may be not enough organization. It may not be good enough handling of your financial situation, but you have to be able to walk away and feel safe doing that. And I'm starting to now just get to that point. You know, I've kind of talked to my girlfriend even about this, of like, you've come into my life at a really great time. Past girlfriends have always had to fight me on the whole, I don't have enough time. Oh, I can't do that this week. I got to get more work done. Babe, I got more stuff to do. I got to do stuff. I have to do this other stuff. I don't have enough time to do this or that. And just, you know, with last year, at the beginning of this podcast, really, I was really going through a hard time where it really made it obvious to me that, like, you need to be able to give it away. You need to be able to give this whole career away. And that, like, there still needs to be you after that career is given away. You know, you should be able to take away all of this career, and there should still be a Fitz after that. After I take away all of that stuff, you still need to be there.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very interesting concept, like how much, especially if you're a one-man show or small business, like how much of your business is you know, like, and that's what I feel like is like one of the big things, you know, when you hear like a restaurant owner shutting down, you know, that's the world, you know, they are shutting down a business, and some people, they cannot deal with that, you know, and they have nothing outside of work. And then there's people, so it's like the grass is always green on the other side. People who are not having a business, they're like, I want more money, you know, how dare they, you know, and they just want to enjoy themselves. And then, you know, but then they're complaining about not having money. And then if you're on the business side, you're not having a life and you're complaining about too much work. And, you know, it's just like getting weird when you're like not having money and you're working too much, you know? So that's like, you kind of need to be in the sweet spot.
Yeah, the sweet spot. Exactly. I was about to say that, is that, like, you know, what's interesting is that, you know, people, when they start their own business, they do it because they want freedom. And sometimes they want to have more freedom to live their life. But then what's funny is then we create even more of a prison situation than we came from. Yeah. So that's what's funny, is like, I always make the joke, like, I'm the worst boss that I've ever had. Like, I'm such an asshole. I write the checks late some months. I'm sometimes really mean about the workload. You know,
overtime.
Overtime. You don't get to hang out Friday nights. You get to work all night, you know. So I've had to, like, talk to that to myself too. It's like, would you even treat an employee this bad? Like, not really. Like, you need to be a little nicer to Sean. Like, you need to give him the night off, you know.
Yeah, so I love doing like that example with like Factorio and building systems and whatever, but in the end it's like, if you build a business, you have a ton of tiny systems, you know, that you built, you came up with it, and you set the rules for that system, and you get used to them, and they become habits. And after they become habits and rules that you set, and they are not running smooth, they need more attention, more work than a really perfect dialed down system. And you know, your goal should be like building the perfect system so it doesn't require work and you just make money. What is like the ideal thing, but it's like, you need to learn how to build systems and, you know, processes. And if you don't do that correctly, it's just more work than it's like giving. And it's like, sometimes you need to step back, take a breather, and just like, yeah, I wouldn't work for that system, you know, that I built though, you know. So it's like, next time I make sure the hours are right, the billing is right, and I don't do everything by hand, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. And half of that I feel like I've gotten better at, but I still have some work to do, is also reviewing. We get so excited when we end a project. It's so funny when we're finally like, oh God, fine. Here's the final thing. I'm finally done. We're so quick to just run away from the project but we really should pause and be like, have that list of like, what could go better, and like look at the hours, like look at the time clock, look how much you estimated, and then get that like, okay, this is how much I got paid per hour on this project. Was that good? Was it $5 an hour or was it $50 an hour? And I think that's something I'm trying to get better at too, is looking at every interaction, and then at least at the end, even if I'm not writing it down, at least being in my head, was that good overall or bad overall? Because sometimes even if it was a good design that came out, there was a lot of time and money wasted for that. And that can get really, really frustrating.
Yeah, so that is like one of the things where it's just like, obviously small businesses, freelancers, you got to learn a lot, and after you basically master it, you can make a lot of money, but there's a transition time, and we need to take sometimes steps back and just analyze what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, I like that. Analysis.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to kind of wrap up this episode, I think with bots, I think it's something that we're going to be dealing with going forward. So it's like, just be a better human than a bot can be, I guess would be my only advice. Try to have that empathy, try to make those real connections. Yeah. Become a boutique if you need to, where you're a very special thing, because people do want special catered experiences. So be that for the people. Then let the people have the bot Walmart experience, but you're not Walmart. You're that really nice suit tailored. Like, we're gonna get that measuring tape out, and we're gonna give you a nice glass of champagne while we suit you. Be that. Give that. Figure out how can you give a catered experience versus a chat bot.
Yeah. And just like reach out and build those real connections. That's basically what I'm like, okay, don't worry, just keep on doing. We got this. Thumbs up.
Right. And then and they kind of put a ribbon on that part of like, build the connections, but don't feel like you have to give everything away for free. People don't want free. They don't. Even if they say they do, they don't. Yeah. Do cheap, if anything. That's what I would tell people. If people really want to be like, well, we'll give you all this free stuff, be like, you know what? How about you give me free stuff and then I'll give you a big discount? Like, and if they're like, no, then be like, this just won't work. We can't be people pleasers. If you try to be a people pleaser in this industry, you're screwed. So you have to be okay with letting people down. You have to be okay with saying, no, I won't go to prom with you. You have to be okay with it.
I think that was a good episode, and I'm kind of jealous on your 1 week vacation in the mountains. Do you have any personal game plans that you want to share besides like going into the mountains there? What do you do there?
Well, yeah, in the mountains it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. We're gonna go fishing. I got this whole telescopic fishing pole. We're going to do some backpacking, some fishing, go see some waterfalls. We're going to a part of Colorado I've never been, which is really cool. So yeah, can go see waterfalls, things like that. Go backpack camping. Just get in the forest. I love that. It's funny. Like I really do love not having a computer sometimes. No web design, just being out in the woods, just hanging in a hammock. I mean, that is just that's the world to me. But yeah, in terms of like today, like one of my so I'm cleaning up a lot today. I'm trying to get my finances together. I've really gotten behind on my finances too with bills and stuff like that. But just a lot of cleaning stuff up and just planning the future. I may be down in Florida this fall in a much larger way for like months and months and months, and start to really do that move down there. So I'm trying to figure that out as well, of like, what does that look like? I got to talk to my accountant and be like, how do you, because there is a lot of complications of when you have a business in two states at the same time. Yeah. But yeah, so just how are you, man?
Good. Well, life is great and interesting. So I'm basically doing what we have to do. My plate cleared, so I'm like excited to reach out to a bunch of people. Obviously, with the AAA bot agencies, I was like thinking it's somewhat easy to implement and it's somewhat easy to sell. So I was like, I could get into that. Then it's obviously like representing it the correct way so that you can make an easy sell. But then I'm also like, do I want to be part of the problem? And then I'm like, if I'm not part of the problem, I'm not benefiting from it and I'm just suffering. What kind of sucks, So it's just like... Yeah. We at least should make sure that we eat, and if there's a new trend, we should jump on it, and we should not have like I shouldn't do this because it's not me, it's not, but if we could try and do it, just do it and move on to the next ship, because we're all riding waves, and we don't want to crush when it's like too late.
Yeah. Well, 100%. And I would say, just take what you can from it. All these things, even if you don't fully give into it, there's probably something you could take from the bot world, right? And apply it to yours.
Yeah. Because, like, who knows? Maybe the next thing after the AI future is like, oh, we're more human now, and we're just doing more connected things. What will be hopefully the case of, like, and that's what I'm hoping. So, but you got to be ready for that phase too. So you got to ride those waves right now, so you can jump onto the next one. Because if you're like crashed beforehand, it kind of sucks.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, I think it's about getting this computer to work along with the other computers. So I think that's part of it. Is combine your systems with the AI systems, and then you're in a good spot. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, it's been a great conversation. Thank you, everybody. Rate, like, and subscribe on this podcast. We love seeing you guys. We have almost 200 subscribers now between the platforms, so that's a big thing for us. So yeah, please keep subscribing.
Thousands of views, those. Thousands.
Yeah, tens of thousands, really, between the two platforms. So, so thank you, everybody. We love all that you guys are doing. We'll keep making them, so keep being creative.
Yep. Bye.